Some bridges burn with a single choice.
I'm David Crawford, 42 years old, divorced 5 years ago from my ex-wife Sarah after what you'd call a typical middle-class marriage breakdown. We grew in different directions, wanted different things from life, had different priorities. The usual story that plays out in suburban America every day. Sarah remarried 2 years after our divorce to Vincent Blackwood, this incredibly flashy businessman who owns a chain of luxury car dealerships across 3 states. Vincent's got serious money, undeniable charisma, and apparently everything I wasn't bringing to the table as a father figure in Tyler's life. Tyler was 17 when Vincent entered the picture, right at that impressionable age where material success starts looking like the ultimate validation of someone's worth as a person. Suddenly, our modest weekend fishing trips seemed pathetic compared to Vincent's elaborate yacht parties with important business connections. Our simple camping vacations in state parks paled next to Vincent's spontaneous European getaways and 5-star resort stays in exotic locations. I watched my son's eyes light up around Vincent in ways they never did around me anymore, and it stung more than I want to admit. I tried really hard not to take it personally at first. Vincent could offer experiences and opportunities I simply couldn't afford on my middle management salary at a regional insurance company. But what really hurt was watching Tyler start treating me like an embarrassing obligation he had to endure while treating Vincent like some kind of mentor and role model worth emulating. The kid who used to call me his hero and hang on my every word now rolled his eyes when I tried to give him advice about anything important. The relationship deteriorated gradually over those months. Tyler would come back from weekends at Vincent's house full of stories about networking events, business dinners, private golf lessons at exclusive country clubs, and meetings with successful entrepreneurs who treated him like an adult instead of a child. Meanwhile, I was offering homework help and reminders about chores, which suddenly seemed incredibly small and insignificant by comparison. The absolute breaking point came at Tyler's 18th birthday celebration, which Sarah and Vincent threw at their new mansion in the most exclusive neighborhood in town. This wasn't just a party. It was a full-scale production with professional catering, a hired DJ, elaborate decorations that probably cost more than my monthly salary, and a guest list that read like a who's who of local business leaders and social influencers. I showed up with a simple but thoughtful gift, a leather-bound journal engraved with Tyler's initials and a heartfelt inscription about recording his journey through life, and tried my best to blend into the background without causing any awkwardness. That's when Tyler decided to make his grand announcement to the assembled crowd of family members, friends, business associates, and social media followers who were documenting every moment of the celebration. He stands up right in the middle of the party, during the peak moment when everyone was having fun and feeling good, and taps his champagne glass with a silver spoon like he's about to give an important wedding toast. The music stops, conversations halt mid-sentence, and suddenly all eyes are on my son as he prepares to make what he clearly considers the most important declaration of his young life. "I want to thank everyone for being here tonight to celebrate with me," he begins, speaking loudly and clearly so everyone can hear every word. "But I especially want to thank Vincent for showing me what it truly means to have a real father figure in my life, someone who leads by example and demonstrates what success actually looks like." My stomach immediately dropped because I could see exactly where this was heading. But I forced myself to stay calm and listen to whatever he was planning to say, no matter how much it might hurt. Tyler continued with growing confidence. "I've been thinking a lot about identity lately, about what names really mean and what kind of legacy I want to build with my life. I've decided that I'm completely finished being a Crawford because I want to carry the name of someone I actually admire and respect, someone who's shown me what it means to be a man worth becoming." The crowd went absolutely quiet, except for Sarah's side of the family, who immediately started clapping enthusiastically and murmuring approval like he just announced his acceptance to Harvard Medical School with a full scholarship. But Tyler wasn't finished making his point. He went on. "Vincent has shown me what real success looks like, what it means to build something meaningful and lasting with your life instead of just settling for mediocrity. He's been more of a father to me in these past 2 years than some people managed to be in 18 years of biological obligation." The knife twisted deeper with each word, but I maintained my composure and waited for him to finish. "So, I've made the decision to legally change my name to Blackwood through adult adoption proceedings. I want to officially become part of a family that represents achievement, ambition, and the kind of values I want to live by." The applause was much louder this time, with people actually standing up to clap. Vincent rose from his seat and shook Tyler's hand firmly like they'd just closed a major business deal that would benefit both parties. Sarah looked directly at me with this triumphant smile that clearly communicated, "Finally, he sees the truth about what kind of inadequate man you really are." Several guests immediately surrounded Tyler to congratulate him on his mature decision and brave choice to forge his own path. A few even patted Vincent on the back like he'd accomplished something remarkable by winning over another man's son and providing superior guidance. I didn't argue with anyone. I didn't make a scene or try to talk Tyler out of his decision. I didn't plead or beg or cause the kind of dramatic confrontation everyone probably expected. Instead, I simply raised my own glass calmly and said, "To Tyler, may he find exactly what he's looking for in life and discover the true value of the choices he makes." Then I quietly signed whatever legal papers they put in front of me when the adoption proceedings officially began. Everyone at that party assumed I was finally accepting my place as the clearly inferior father figure, gracefully stepping aside for the obviously superior model who could provide better guidance and opportunities. What none of them realized in that moment was that I wasn't just signing away parental rights or giving my blessing to a name change. I was unknowingly triggering something much, much bigger and more permanent than anyone could have imagined. Here's what Tyler never bothered to learn about the Crawford family during all those years he was growing up in our house. We have money. Not flashy, show-off money like Vincent's expensive cars and luxury boats, but old money. Serious, generational wealth that's been carefully built and methodically preserved over 90 years through strategic land investments, business partnerships, corporate holdings, and extremely careful financial planning by people who understood the difference between looking wealthy and actually being wealthy. My great-grandfather, Thomas Crawford, established the Crawford Family Trust in 1934, right in the middle of the Great Depression, when most people were losing everything they'd worked for. He was an incredibly shrewd businessman who understood that real wealth wasn't about showing off or impressing people. It was about building systems and structures that could last for generations and continue growing even during economic disasters. Over the course of 9 decades, that trust has grown into something truly substantial that most people would find difficult to believe. We're talking about millions of dollars in liquid assets, extensive property holdings across 4 different states, multiple scholarship foundations, dozens of business partnerships, and institutional connections that open doors most people don't even know exist in the first place. The Crawford name carries serious weight in certain circles that matter. Not celebrity status or social media fame, but real influence where it actually counts. Bank presidents recognize that name and return phone calls immediately. University administrators know its significance and prioritize applications accordingly. Federal judges remember doing business with Crawford Holdings and extend professional courtesies. Corporate executives understand the networking value and make time for meetings. It's the kind of quiet, behind-the-scenes power that builds empires, while nobody in the general public is paying any attention to what's happening. But here's the absolutely crucial part that Tyler never bothered to understand or even ask about. The trust has ironclad bloodline requirements that cannot be waived or modified under any circumstances. Only legal descendants who are currently carrying the Crawford surname can access any benefits whatsoever from the trust or its affiliated organizations. The original founding documents include what's called a disassociation clause that permanently and irrevocably removes anyone who voluntarily changes their name through adoption, marriage, legal renunciation, or any other method that demonstrates rejection of the family identity. No exceptions, no appeals. No second chances. No loopholes of any kind. My great-grandfather wrote the trust documents that way after spending years watching other wealthy families get systematically manipulated and exploited by opportunistic people who married into the family or schemed their way into positions where they could access the family fortune just for personal gain without any genuine commitment to preserving or building the legacy for future generations. Thomas Crawford wanted to absolutely ensure that the Crawford legacy would stay exclusively with actual Crawfords, who understood both the privileges and the responsibilities that came with carrying that name. The legal language he used is brutal in its clarity and finality. Any descendant who voluntarily relinquishes the Crawford surname for any reason whatsoever shall immediately and permanently forfeit all rights, privileges, access, and future claims to trust benefits in perpetuity, with no possibility of reinstatement under any circumstances. 90 years later, Those words still carry absolute legal authority that no court can override or modify. The night Tyler legally became Tyler Blackwood through the completed adoption process, I went home to my quiet apartment and made a phone call I'd been dreading, but knew was necessary. I called our longtime family attorney, Harrison Moore, who'd been handling Crawford Trust business for over 30 years and knew exactly what I was calling about before I even said the first word. "David," he said, in that measured, careful tone that lawyers use when they're discussing matters with serious legal consequences, "are you absolutely certain about activating the disassociation protocol for Tyler? This is not something we can undo later if you change your mind." He made his choice publicly in front of 50 witnesses and then made it legally binding through official adoption proceedings, I replied. "I'm simply honoring that choice by following through with the natural consequences that were always built into the trust structure. You understand completely that once I filed the necessary paperwork with the trust administrators, there's no reversing this action under any circumstances. The trust documents are absolute and final. There's no provision for reinstatement, appeals, or reconsideration, regardless of changed circumstances or regret. I understand completely, and Tyler understood what he was doing when he signed those papers. Please file it immediately." "Very well. The documentation will be processed and submitted within 72 hours. After that point, Tyler Crawford will cease to exist in all trust records permanently and irreversibly." Within exactly 3 days, Tyler Crawford was systematically erased from every single trust document, property deed, scholarship fund agreement, business partnership contract, and legal instrument associated with the Crawford family wealth. Tyler Blackwood was now just another 18-year-old kid with no family connections, no institutional support system, and no financial safety net beyond whatever his stepfather was willing and able to provide from his own resources. The consequences started rolling in about 3 weeks later, and they came in devastating waves that kept building momentum. First came the official letter from Stanford University, delivered in one of those crisp white envelopes that usually contain good news about acceptance or financial aid. Tyler tore it open eagerly, probably expecting orientation information, dormitory assignments, or details about campus activities. Instead, he found a formal, coldly professional notice that his full-ride scholarship was being immediately revoked due to changes in eligibility status with the sponsoring organization. The Crawford Educational Foundation had been funding Tyler's entire college experience from day one: tuition, room and board, textbooks, laboratory fees, and even a generous monthly living stipend for personal expenses. The total value over 4 years was over $200,000, all of which disappeared instantly with a single paragraph of legal text. The letter explained that he would need to reapply for general financial aid through normal channels, which he wouldn't qualify for because Vincent's high income disqualified the family from need-based assistance programs. Then the housing situation collapsed like a house of cards in a hurricane. Tyler's premium single dormitory room in the newest residential facility had been subsidized through a Crawford Trust partnership with the university that went back decades and involved multiple substantial donations to campus development projects. The housing office sent a refund check for $1,200, along with a polite but firm explanation that his room was being reallocated to eligible participants in the partnership program. He was suddenly scrambling to find regular housing at regular market rates, which in Palo Alto meant either tiny shared spaces with multiple roommates or commuting from an hour away in cheaper areas. Next, his extremely prestigious summer internship at Morrison Industries evaporated without any warning or explanation. Morrison had been doing mutually beneficial business with Crawford Holdings for over 40 years, and Tyler's internship was part of that ongoing corporate relationship that provided valuable opportunities for family members. The hiring manager called personally to apologetically explain that the position was specifically reserved for Crawford family members as part of our partnership agreement, and unfortunately Tyler no longer qualified for consideration. They wished him well in finding alternative opportunities through normal application processes. His fully funded study abroad program in Germany got canceled because every aspect of it was paid for through the Crawford International Exchange Foundation, which was a subsidiary organization of the main family trust. The program coordinator seemed genuinely confused and concerned about Tyler's sudden change in eligibility status and kept asking if there had been some kind of administrative mistake in the paperwork. There hadn't been any mistake. the private SAT tutoring sessions that Vincent had arranged, thinking he was being generous. It turned out that the elite tutoring company gave Crawford descendants a 70% discount as part of a long-standing business relationship that involved referrals and corporate sponsorship. Full price was $300 per hour, way beyond what even wealthy Vincent wanted to pay for test preparation services. Tyler's membership at the exclusive Riverside Country Club, where he'd been learning golf and networking with other wealthy families' children in preparation for future business relationships, was quietly terminated. The club manager sent a polite but definitive letter explaining that family memberships were non-transferable to adopted children of current members, according to club bylaws that had been in place for decades. Even smaller everyday privileges that Tyler had taken for granted started disappearing one by one. The family dentist, who'd been treating Crawfords for 3 generations at drastically reduced rates as a professional courtesy, politely referred Tyler to find new dental care. The private college counselor who'd been helping navigate the complex world of applications and scholarships was being paid through trust funds and professionally ended their relationship. Tyler suddenly found himself navigating college admissions, financial aid applications, and scholarship competitions entirely alone without any guidance or support. The family physician who'd known Tyler since birth and provided free medical care as part of a decades-old arrangement politely suggested he find a new doctor. The exclusive private gym where he'd been working out and training was part of a Crawford family membership that didn't extend to non-family members. Even his cell phone plan, which had been part of a corporate account with massive discounts, got moved to regular consumer pricing. Tyler started calling me repeatedly, becoming increasingly confused, panicked, and desperate as each door slammed shut in his face. "Dad, there's been some kind of serious mistake with my trust access," he said during his first frantic phone call. "They're saying I'm not eligible for the foundation scholarships anymore, but that can't possibly be right. I'm still your biological son, no matter what papers I signed." "There's no mistake whatsoever," I told him calmly and matter-of-factly. "You're Tyler Blackwood now, legally and permanently. The trust only recognizes people who are currently legal Crawfords. But you're still my biological father. That has to count for something in the family trust." "Biology doesn't override legal documents, Tyler. You signed official papers in front of witnesses and a judge, formally declaring Vincent as your adoptive father and explicitly rejecting the Crawford family name. The trust is simply following your clearly stated wishes." I could hear him trying desperately not to cry over the phone. I didn't know it would affect all this stuff. Nobody explained that it was about more than just the name on my driver's license. "You didn't ask what the Crawford name represented, or what responsibilities and privileges came with it before you decided to throw it away publicly." The silence on the phone stretched uncomfortably for a long time. Then, in a much smaller and more vulnerable voice, "Can't we just change it back somehow? Tell them it was all a mistake and I didn't understand? The disassociation clause is permanent and completely irrevocable, Tyler. Once triggered, it cannot be reversed under any circumstances whatsoever. Your great-great-grandfather made absolutely certain of that when he wrote the trust document specifically to prevent exactly this kind of situation." Tyler hung up the phone without saying goodbye. Sarah called me exactly 1 hour later, absolutely screaming about how I was being vindictive and manipulative, using family money as a weapon against my own son out of petty jealousy and wounded pride. I let her vent and rage for several minutes, then calmly explained that I had simply honored their legal decision to make Tyler a Blackwood completely and permanently in every way that mattered. "You could have warned us about the consequences," she shouted accusingly. "Warned you about what exactly? That actions have real consequences? That legal documents mean exactly what they say? Tyler made his choice deliberately in front of 50 witnesses at a party you threw to celebrate that choice. I'm just respecting that decision completely." Over the following months, Tyler kept discovering new doors that had quietly closed forever, each revelation another small devastation and reminder of what he'd casually discarded, without understanding its true value. The Crawford family physician, who'd been treating our family for free for decades as part of a professional courtesy arrangement dating back generations, politely referred Tyler to find a new doctor and wished him well. The exclusive golf club where he'd been learning to play and networking with influential families. Crawford membership privileges didn't extend to non-family members, effective immediately upon legal name change. The private college counselor who'd been helping navigate the incredibly complex world of applications, essays, and scholarship competitions was being paid through trust funds and professionally ended their relationship with appropriate notice. Tyler suddenly found himself completely alone in trying to understand financial aid forms, application deadlines, and scholarship requirements. His acceptance to several elite summer programs got revoked when the organizers discovered he was no longer a Crawford family member. His reserved spot at a leadership conference for promising young business minds disappeared. Even his volunteer position at a prestigious charity that worked with Crawford Holdings got quietly eliminated. Vincent tried desperately to step up and fill the gaps with his own money and connections, but his resources couldn't replace the institutional relationships and generational connections that the Crawford name automatically provided. He could buy Tyler expensive clothes and gadgets, take him on luxury vacations, and pay for private lessons, but he couldn't buy him into the networks and opportunities that had been Tyler's birthright since the moment he was born into the Crawford family. Vincent's wealth was impressive, but ultimately limited to what one successful businessman could accumulate in a single generation. The Crawford Trust represented 90 years of compound growth, strategic relationships, and institutional memory that simply couldn't be replicated or replaced by anyone starting from scratch. The absolute breaking point came at my Aunt Margaret's funeral 6 months later. Margaret had been like a grandmother to Tyler throughout his childhood, the sweet old lady who snuck him cookies during family gatherings and told him fascinating stories about Crawford family history and the adventures of previous generations. Tyler showed up to pay his respects, dressed impeccably in his best dark suit and carrying a sympathy card with a heartfelt handwritten message about how much she had meant to him personally. But when he tried to sit with the family in the reserved section at the front of the church, my cousin Jennifer gently but firmly redirected him toward the general seating area where other friends and acquaintances were sitting. "I'm really sorry," she said, clearly uncomfortable but following established protocol. "But family seating is restricted to current Crawford family members only." Tyler protested earnestly that he was Margaret's great-nephew, that he'd known and loved her his entire life, that she'd practically helped raise him during those wonderful summers at the family lake house when he was little. Jennifer just shook her head sympathetically but inflexibly. "I understand your feelings, and I know you cared about her deeply, but you're not listed in the official family registry anymore. I'm really sorry, but those are the rules, and I can't make exceptions." Tyler ended up standing alone in the very back of the church, watching from a distance as the family he'd rejected gathered together to honor and remember one of their own. The professional photographer taking official family portraits for the memorial album never even noticed him or included him in any of the formal pictures. In all the framed photographs that would be displayed at the family estate and passed down to future generations, Tyler is nowhere to be found, completely erased from the visual record of family history. After the service, Tyler tried to approach several family members to share memories and offer condolences, but the conversations were awkward and brief. People were polite but distant, treating him like a family friend rather than actual family. No one was mean or cruel, but the invisible barrier was unmistakable. That evening, Tyler came to my apartment looking more defeated than I'd ever seen him. I was folding laundry and catching up on the news when I heard his voice in the hallway, small and broken in a way that took me back to when he was a little boy who'd fallen off his bicycle. "Dad, can we please talk about everything that's happened?" I let him in without hesitation. He looked genuinely older somehow, like something essential and irreplaceable had been drained out of him over these difficult months. The confident young man who'd made that bold declaration at his birthday party had been replaced by someone who looked lost, uncertain, and deeply regretful. "I made a terrible mistake," he said quietly, his voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't understand what I was really giving up when I changed my name and rejected our family." I kept folding laundry methodically, not wanting to make this conversation more emotionally charged than it needed to be. "What exactly did you think you were gaining by becoming a Blackwood?" "I wanted to feel chosen, I guess. Special. Important. Vincent made me feel like I mattered in a way I didn't think I felt around you. He made everything seem exciting and meaningful. You always mattered to me, Tyler. You were always important and special. But apparently that wasn't enough for you. You needed public recognition and external validation." He started crying then, really crying like he hadn't since he was a small child dealing with disappointment he couldn't understand. "I'm so sorry, Dad. I was stupid and angry and jealous of Vincent's success. I wanted to hurt you because you weren't as flashy or impressive as he was, but I never meant for all this to happen. I had no idea about the trust, about all the doors the Crawford name opened, about everything it really meant. What did you honestly think would happen when you publicly rejected everything our family had built and preserved over 90 years of careful work? I thought you'd fight for me. I thought you'd argue and try to stop me from making such a huge mistake. I stopped folding clothes and looked at him directly with complete honesty. You were 18 years old, legally an adult, making what you presented as a carefully considered decision with full knowledge that you were rejecting our family name and everything it represented. Fighting you would have meant disrespecting your autonomy and your declared right to choose your own path in life. You said you wanted to be a Blackwood, and I helped you achieve that goal completely. But can't the family lawyers find some kind of loophole or technicality that could reverse what I did? I shook my head definitively. Your great-great-grandfather survived the Great Depression, 2 world wars, multiple economic recessions, and countless legal challenges by being absolutely thorough and uncompromising in his legal and financial planning. The trust documents he wrote don't contain loopholes because they were specifically and intentionally designed to prevent exactly what you're asking for now. The language is ironclad and completely absolute. Tyler stayed for another 3 hours that night, but we both understood that the conversation was essentially over. He'd made his choice publicly, legally, and permanently. Now he had to live with consequences that would affect every aspect of his life for decades to come. 8 months later, I received an elegant formal invitation to the Crawford Foundation's annual gala, printed on heavy cream paper with gold embossing. It's a family-only event where we recognize achievements, distribute grants and scholarships, and celebrate another successful year of responsible stewardship of our generational wealth. This year's program was especially significant because they were announcing a major new scholarship program specifically designed for Crawford descendants who demonstrate exceptional family loyalty and unwavering commitment to generational stewardship values. The painful irony wasn't lost on me. Tyler wasn't invited because his name had been completely removed from all family contact lists and organizational rosters. He only found out about the event through social media posts from his cousins, who were all celebrating their continued inclusion in the family legacy and sharing photos from the elegant evening. The new scholarship program awarded $50,000 per year, plus networking opportunities, guaranteed internship placements, mentorship programs, and business connections that would shape entire careers. Everything Tyler had casually walked away from was now supporting other young Crawford family members who understood the value of family loyalty and generational responsibility. I saw Tyler's comment on one of the Instagram posts. "Congratulations to everyone. You deserve all the success and opportunities coming your way. Make the family proud. No bitterness, no anger, no resentment, just quiet acceptance of what he'd lost and genuine happiness for his cousin's continued success and bright futures." Vincent's money, impressive as it was, couldn't fix what Tyler had fundamentally broken. No amount of luxury vacations, expensive cars, or exclusive experiences could replace the institutional support system and generational connections he'd rejected in a moment of teenage rebellion and misplaced priorities. Tyler was now working part-time at a local electronics store, trying to save money for community college classes while his Crawford cousins attended prestigious universities with comprehensive family support. The final communication came last month when Tyler sent me a heartfelt text message. "Dad, I finally understand what you meant about consequences lasting longer than the applause they generate. I'm deeply sorry for what I said at that party and for carelessly throwing away everything you and our ancestors worked so hard to build and preserve. I hope someday you might be able to forgive me, even though I know I can never undo the permanent damage I caused." I texted back immediately. "I forgave you the moment you made your choice, Tyler. You're still my son and I still love you. But forgiveness doesn't undo legal documents or erase the finality of what you signed." The Crawford Foundation continues growing stronger and more influential every year, supporting the next generation of family members who understand that legacy isn't just inheritance, it's responsibility, stewardship, and commitment to something larger than individual desires. The trust my great-grandfather built with such foresight continues opening doors and creating opportunities for Crawfords who value the name they carry and fully understand the obligations that come with generational privilege. Tyler learned far too late that some bridges, once completely burned, simply cannot be rebuilt or repaired. He chose momentary validation and teenage rebellion over generational connection and family loyalty, and that choice was permanent and absolutely irrevocable. I don't take any pleasure in his ongoing struggles, but I deeply respect the important lesson they teach about the true weight of our decisions and the critical importance of understanding what we're giving up before we let it go forever. He wanted a different name and a different father figure to admire. Now he has both, completely and forever, exactly as he requested. The Crawford legacy continues moving forward without him, precisely as he chose when he stood up at that party and rejected everything we represented.